Hello, Nirmala ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Purohit. How are you?
Very well, ma'am. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I was I just sent a message to my principal. She said she'll be joining for a short while.
Okay. Okay.
So
Sure.
that'll be nice. And I called up Frodi also, and I said you can open the link a little before 3 p.m. so that the students join on time, because otherwise they'll keep disturbing the speaker. They'll keep joining.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah, correct. So I think the link is open, right, Frodi?
I got a link saying click for panelist or stay as an attendee. So I just clicked.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, ma'am.
Oh, it's open. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Frodi.
Yeah,
I suppose she's there, right?
she's there. I think this admissions for 2020.
Great. Wonderful. I hope the girls can join in then.
Yeah. Sure.
Hi, is my student. Okay, they're joining in.
Yeah. So,
And Frodi, the names that I've given you, please make them co-host so that they can speak. They can unmute and speak, huh? Principal and the student coordinator. I've given you 4 names yesterday on the WhatsApp. Yeah, please. I just make them co-hosts. Yeah, thanks, dear.
No worries.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful. When you open the link a little before the time, then it's always comfortable for everyone.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Frodi. Thank you, Nirmala ma'am.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much. Huh?
Thank you.
I hope you'll share the recording with us as well later.
Yes, I'll forward the recording to you.
Great.
So that you can send it off to the students as well.
Yes. We also need to document whatever events we conduct. So. Frodi, can you just put our poster on the screen? Is that possible?
I would have to share my screen here.
Okay. Yeah, because anybody who joins knows that this is what it's going to be.
Hi, Ravi. Yeah, I think you're on mute, Ravi.
Hi, Asim. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ravi.
Afternoon, Mr. Sreedharan. Nirmala here from Janki Devi.
Very, very good afternoon, Ms. Nirmala. How are you? So nice to
I'm good. I'm good. Looking forward to your session.
Thank you so much, Nirmala ji. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you. I hope we sail through this session without any technical glitch.
That's become part and parcel of life, ma'am, right? Isn't it? Conversing through technology and then, sometimes facing challenges. I hope today is not that day.
Hopefully not. We're starting on a positive note, sir.
Yeah.
The classes are all now on hybrid or offline?
Totally online
I'm meaning online, yeah.
because there are too many cases right now everywhere.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. How long do you want me to speak and how long would you like it to be like an interactive question answer session? Any suggestion?
So I think the entire session can be for an hour and a half maximum. So you can go up to 40, 45 minutes and then we can have questions from the audience. Actually, we never have a fixed thing because it depends on the speaker. Sometimes it gets very interactive and,
Yeah.
and carries on. So everything depends on the audience as well, actually.
Okay.
But people are very keen on this because very rarely do we have a session on social sector. So the moment we got the mail, we were very excited because
Right,
it's generally it's IT and
Yes.
that
Yes.
kind of stuff. So a college which has so many disciplines in social sciences, we were very, very excited about this.
No, it's really wonderful. The only thing I was just looking, I had planned for the session from 3 to 4. Is that the plan or was it on 9? Because
Yeah, 3. We start at 3. We could go up to 4:30 also. That is not an issue.
I have a hard stop at the other end, unfortunately, I'm at 4 o'clock.
Okay, you can wind up by 4. No issues.
Okay.
No issues.
I think that's okay, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Ravi.
Entirely up to you. If you feel that after 35 minutes you feel you prefer an interaction, then we can
That's
go
what
for
I'm
that
thinking.
as well.
Maybe about
Yeah.
30, 35 minutes and then 20, 25 minutes we can have an
So what we
interaction.
can do is we can keep an eye on the chat box and we can pick up questions and
Correct.
like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We've all become veterans in this now. The last 2 years we've been doing online. So
I know.
The biggest experiment in working from home, right?
yeah. But I prefer my classroom.
Oh, any day.
Yeah, nothing like in-person interaction.
You miss that eye contact, miss that personal touch, like.
Totally.
Yeah, and you look at technology, right? It's a phenomena that's been around for 30, 35 years maybe. But prior to that, it was all, in-person interaction only.
True.
So that's how, generations have grown. And of course, there's a change now. But the fact that we have been part of both
makes us feel old.
Yeah. Frodi, they'll join. Don't worry. They'll join. Anchal, can you please message to Vidhi that she should join? I'll just call her.
Seem I'm just going to get some water and come in 20
Yeah,
seconds.
please take your time. Take your time.
Nirmala ma'am will start in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, at 3 p.m. I was just waiting for more participants to come in.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think let's wait for a few minutes and then we can.
Yeah. Mr. Purohit, Dr. Poonam Butra is also here.
Oh, that's
We
Hello,
were
Doctor.
coordinating for this session, so she's also here. So we're just waiting for a few more participants to join in. Our principal will also be joining in.
Sure, ma'am. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Dr. Poonam. I think looks like she's joined as an audience member.
Oh, she's here. She's mute.
Oh, she's on. Okay.
Frodi, please make Dr. Poonam also the co-host. I had messaged to you.
Yeah, Nirmala ma'am will do that. We have a person called Poonam Mahajan. Nirmala ma'am, do we need to make?
No. Yeah, it shows as Poonam Mahajan. Please make her the co-host.
Yes.
Yeah,
We'll do
I
that.
had given the name as Dr. Poonam Butra. Okay.
Yeah, okay, sure. Hello, Dr. Poonam.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Very good afternoon.
I'm sorry, I don't know what was the confusion. Okay, that's my maiden name, so maybe it's showing that. So very happy to have you on board. And,
Thank you.
A field that we think our students are really interested in.
Wonderful.
And so really look forward to your talk and, what all follows from that.
Thank you so much, Poonam. Really appreciate this, ma'am.
Thank you. Welcome to our college. And let's hope it's the beginning of a very long and
Yes.
fruitful relationship.
Yes, and meaningful career.
Yes, definitely. Anything that benefits our students, we are always open for it.
Sure, ma'am. Thank
We'll
you.
start soon. We're just waiting a few more participants and the principal to join, and we'll start.
Yes, Nirmala ma'am. That's fine.
Most of the students are likely be from the postgrad, undergrad, final year.
Undergrad. We offer predominantly humanities and commerce.
Yes, I'm
We
aware.
don't have too many science courses. So
Only science,
Just our
this thing
mathematics.
is
Yeah.
mathematics. That's BSc mathematics. Otherwise, we are
Here, yeah.
basically humanities
All
and
the
commerce.
social sciences and commerce. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the students are mostly from the first, second, third year?
Undergrads.
Yeah, they're a mixed group. Yeah.
They may be from first year, second year, third year. That's a mixed bag, but
We've thrown it open to everybody.
Right.
yeah.
And you will have faculty and students from other colleges as well.
I see. Okay.
Hello. Just click on that register. You'll get join webinar. Just click on that register. The link with registration link. It'll say join webinar. Just click on that and you'll be in. Bye. We have quite a good number.
I don't know what it is. There are some colleges that seem to inspire their students towards social sector more than others do. It's really nice. And oftentimes it's to do with faculty.
Thank you. We'll take that
Well
as a
said.
compliment.
It
Well said.
absolutely is.
I will accept it wholeheartedly.
Absolutely is.
Professor Pal is joining.
Okay.
So, ma'am, should we get started?
I'm just waiting for the principal to join. She's joining.
Nimi, why don't you also switch on your video so that we just take one or two photographs
My
as
problem
soon as
is
she joins in.
sometimes what happens, Poonam, because it's unstable network, the whole thing packs up. So I'm just till the welcome is over. I want to be safe. After that,
I was just thinking before you start speaking, let's have the photograph then.
No, it'll ho jayega. Let everybody come in. थोड़े और आ जाने दो.
नहीं, सब आए हुए हैं. Once the principal comes, because then she'll also leave.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm so worried with this unstable network thing, no?
Yeah, but it's so amazing how we have all adapted to a group photo on the screen now.
Oh yeah, and we all smile and we all look as if we are actually there.
Correct.
I think Professor Pal has joined. Welcome. Welcome, yes. Professor Pal, to this session.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sorry, this took some time. I wasn't very sure how I had to join. So I'm sorry, this took a little bit.
Very good afternoon, Professor Pal.
Good afternoon. Such a pleasure. Happy New Year.
No, thank you so much. It's our pleasure.
Yeah, good afternoon, Professor Paul. Thank you so much for the opportunity for us to do this session.
No, it is our pleasure. In fact, we are very grateful that you're doing this. Thank you.
Sure.
So can we then begin the session?
Sure.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all the attendees to today's session on careers in the social sector, which is being jointly organized by the JDMC-IQAC Center for Career Counseling, Career Opportunity and Skill Enhancement, along with the Center for Extension and Outreach Activities in collaboration with Indian School of Development Management. I welcome all of you here today. Our guest speaker for today, Mr. Ravi Sreedharan, is the founder and president of Indian School of Development Management, an engineer from IIT BHU, followed by an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. He has worked in the corporate sector for over 24 years, mostly with the MNC banks overseas. He quit a successful corporate career in 2011 to pursue a career in social work. He was part of the leadership team at the Aziz Premji Foundation, in which he was working at the grassroots level with teachers and with the community, and also advising national level programs of the government. He has contributed immensely to education, leadership, and management space across the country. During the course of his work in the social sector, he felt the need for setting up a non-profit institute dedicated to development management. He started the Indian School of Development Management in the year 2016, and he and his team are on the way to establishing and building an ecosystem for development management in the country. Their aim is to create a cadre of professional leaders and managers for the development sector, which will create sustainable impact for the betterment of society and improve the quality of life of the underserved. Thank you, sir. We welcome you to this session. I welcome our principal, Professor Swati Pal, and I request you to kindly address the gathering and welcome our guest speaker for the day, Mr. Ravi Sreedharan. Over to you, Professor Pal.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, of course, I will endorse what Nimi just said. Sorry, I should be more formal and say Ms.
Fine,
Muralidhar.
absolutely fine.
Ms. Muralidhar said, and welcome both Ravi and Asim and the entire team from ISDM to this site. And thank you so much for taking this on. I want to make an observation which perhaps may seem a little trite, but I would like to make it because it is something that I have experienced. Increasingly, I have been finding engineers from India. It is people from the engineering sector, who have got some kind of a background in engineering, who have started looking at the social sector, have started looking at community service, have started looking at higher education. To name a few examples, for example, Ashoka University and the Young India Fellowship, if you look at that, it was primarily a group of engineers that really did that. I have a friend, Amitav Bhattacharya, who was a Lead India finalist some decades back. And I remember that he and his wife were working in the US and making a lot of money. And then one day, they just said, what are we really doing for our country? So they have come back and they are now into what is called preservation of the intangible cultural heritage of the country. And they have a company, an NGO, but which is also semi-funded, called banglanatic.com. And there are innumerable such examples, which leads me to wonder, what is it with the engineering mind, that makes you think about paying back to the community, and that makes you think about also motivating young people to pursue, given the fact that you have got your own background in which you're professionally trained in engineering, but yet you have now chosen to look at and to motivate young people to pursue careers in the social sector. I'm really very curious about your journey, about your experiences. What is it that made you convert? I mean, I'm sorry for using such a strong word like conversion, but really which made you change your perspective, whatever perspective you began with when you took on engineering. That's just an observation I'd like to make. But having said that, I think this kind of a webinar is extremely useful for our young people. And I'm very grateful to both our stalwart teachers here, Dr. Poonam Butra and Ms. Muralidhar, to whom I can always depend upon them to come up with just the right thing for our students, which shows their own commitment to the profession and to the students. So warm welcome to everyone, to all the attendees, and I look forward to a very enriching session.
Thank you,
Thank
Professor
you.
Pal, for your kind words. And
Professor Pal,
Mr.
you are
Sri,
the motivating factor. Sorry, you are the motivating factor. So cheers to that.
so over to you, Mr. Sreedharan. The floor is yours. Please.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I don't have a definite answer to Professor Pal's question on why are engineers sort of in this space. I don't know, maybe they have a lot of time in engineering colleges that they think about many other things. But no, I agree with you that I have seen people who have been privileged to get some good education, not just engineering. I've seen doctors, I've seen humanities students, artists, journalists. Somewhere along the way, think about what are they doing, and what value are they adding to society, and I suppose that's how society keeps getting shaped and reshaped, and it evolves when people get involved. And in many ways, that's my segue into today's talk, which is that we need to take ownership for our society and our planet, and if we don't, who will? I mean, it's really ours to sort of make, break, or do whatever we do with it. But really touched by the extremely warm welcome. So really grateful to to all of you, Mrs. Poonam Putra, Mr. Nirmala Muralidharan, and of course Principal Swati. And I'm going to now switch my language and attention to the 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 heroes of today's session, which is the students. And I always get excited when I see so many students because I have in some ways, I believe that, one of my biggest joys is really interacting with students and building their conviction, to make choices, which are meaningful and help them to build lives and careers that when they look back eventually will make a lot of sense to them and make them feel they lived a good life. So in many ways, that's really what I get excited about. So I'm going to start focusing from here on the students. We're at about 3:18. Maybe I'll speak for about 20, 25 minutes, and then I'm hoping the students will be interactive and not falling asleep by the end of my chat, and then we'll try and wind up by 4 o'clock. So firstly, to all these students of JDMC, really very, very happy New Year, a wonderful 2022 to all of you. We seem to have started the year with wave 3 of the pandemic. And I really hope this signals the beginning of the end of this pandemic. And really wishing for much better times for everyone. It's one of the worst things most of us have seen in living memory, and wouldn't want to see this ever again. Like I said, one of the joyous parts of my role is really, the opportunity to interact with people like yourselves. Sometimes I'm talking to college students, sometimes to fellows of different fellowships, sometimes to young professionals who started off as engineers or, whatever. And, talking to them and trying to help them build conviction around what you want to do in life and what careers you want to choose. Especially in the social sector. Most of the time, I'll be honest, all I'm doing is playing the role of a confidence booster to youngsters like most of you, who somewhere deep inside are already committed to being in the social sector. That is very often, especially for the young generation, a natural calling to have meaningful careers, to have meaningful lives, to make a difference, and a lot of far more mature concerns about climate and the future and so on and so forth. So all I end up being is really a mirror and help you make your own choices. But let me start today by talking about the 4 types of youngsters that come to the Indian School of Development Management. We've had 5 batches come through, and I find there are four types of youngsters who land up. The first is they know exactly what they want to do in the social sector, and oftentimes it's based on some life experiences. mother suffered from this, or I had a brother who had this issue, or I once had this horrible experience, or whatever it is, and they committed, they want to work on women's rights or child protection, or whatever it is, livelihoods, and they come to ISDM and they go out and they work in that space. The second category is students who think they know exactly what they want to do. And as they meet more people and learn about things and hear about things, they over time change their mind, and they start realizing that there are many other things that excite them equally, and then they go on to do other things. The third category is those who say, there are many things I want to do, and I'm very confused. I don't know what to choose. I want to be in education, but I also want to work on, gender equality. I also want to work on old people, and I really don't like how our lakes are in the country. They want to do many things, and then over time have to figure out and make their choices on where they want to work. And the fourth, which I find is a majority, is they have no idea what they want to do, but simply want to do something meaningful with their careers and don't want to just waste it, helping somebody else make money somewhere else or something like that, and trying to figure out, yeah, I'm sure I don't want to be in the corporate world, but I want to know what to do, what are the opportunities, and many of you today in this group, are likely to be in that sort of a group, and irrespective of which of those four groups you belong to, I can tell you that you can have the most awesome career in the social sector. It's not only those who know exactly what they want to do that have awesome careers, even those who have no idea when they start off want to have the most awesome career in the social sector. And in ISDM, we call it social purpose organizations. We don't call it not-for-profit organizations or non-government organizations, because somehow we don't like the idea of being defined by what you're not. So we've coined this term social purpose organizations, and that's how we'd like to call the social sector. And it can be for profit, it can be not for profit, it can be in the government, it can be non-government, whatever it is. So how does one choose a career, right? Or whatever age you are, early 20s, and how do you choose a career? And just take a moment to reflect on this question. What is the difference between a job and a career? Right? I mean, it'll be quite obvious to you the moment you take even a 3 seconds to think about that question. What is the difference between a job and a career? And so often, one sees how youngsters pursue jobs that ruin careers. Pursue jobs that ruin careers. And this is a huge mistake, because you end up looking for some trappings in a job and forget that this is going to be an integral part of your life. Because if you're going to be working 70, 80% of your awakened time, it is an integral part of your life. That's why I'd like to call it life choices almost, even more than careers. Therefore, one has to think through as this is something you're going to be doing 70, 80% of your awakening hours, right? And what would you want to do? And people make these comments about, I want to get a good job so I can have a good life. No, they're not two separate things. A significant part of your life is your job. And if the job is completely messed up, then whatever you get out of the job is not going to, salvage the life that, you wanted to live. And that's something to remember. One of the most, sort of famous frameworks, some of you may have read and so on and so forth, on how to choose careers is called the Ikigai framework. Some of you might have read it. It's very popular in Japan, where they say that there are 4 things you should think about for making the ideal career choices. Because they go on to say for happiness in life. And the 4 things that matter when you choose, the kind of career that you want to pursue is: 1, what are you passionate about? Do something you're passionate about. 2, what are you good at? This is very important. 3, what is important for society? And 4, what is society willing to pay for? Right? So, what are you passionate about? What are you good at? What is important for society? And what is society willing to pay for? Which means, is there money in it? And once you get these 4 boxes ticked, you will hit that, that special feeling of really doing a meaningful thing in your job, in your career, in your life. And even one of those that goes missing, it can all fall apart. I mean, I would urge you to read that book if you can. It's very important to think through all those 4, right? So having now spoken more at a generic level, now let me come to careers in the social sector. Right? The social sector, in my opinion, and having done 20, 25 years of work in the corporate world and about 10 plus years in the social sector, the social sector offers the most challenging and exciting work you can imagine. And work that will result in making a difference to people, society, and the planet. And difference not just for now, but for future generations. And that's the kind of work that you're doing in the social sector. And that's why it's such an exciting place to be working. And it's, people come and say, I love solving problems, I love challenges, so I'm going to become an investment banker. I'm thinking, investment banking, my God, that's not even 1/100th of the excitement and challenge and complexity of social sector problems that you will be working on and solving. I mean, let me just take the example of an area which is very close to my heart, right? So the public schooling system. The public schooling system, by the way, in our country, rich schools are called public schools, but public schools actually are government schools that are run, free of cost for, less privileged, very often sections in the society. Now, the school education system, as you know, right, is probably, what is the aim of it? It's an intergenerational process of one generation preparing the future generations for the world they're going to live in. Right? So helping them to become empowered adults, partake in the economic progress of society, facilitate a peaceful and sustainable society, play their part in defining what is a shared aspiration of a progressive society, all that, right? That's what really the education system is about. It's another matter what the education system is able to achieve, but just coming back to the constructs of the public schooling system in this country. India has the biggest and most complicated challenges when it comes to the schooling system. 40% of India's population is below the age of 18, which is over 500 million, is the world's largest child population. And less than half of India's children between the age of 6 and 14 go to school. Less than half. And over 1/3 of the children who enroll in grade 1 manage to reach grade 8, which means 2/3 will drop out by then. I mean, the efficiency of the schooling system, grade 1 to grade 10, is about 12%, which means if you put 100 people into the system, 12 people come out at the other end of the system. It's a horribly inefficient system, if you ask me, even looking at it from that perspective. But that aside, what are the kind of numbers, right? This country has about 1.5 million schools, about 8.5 to 9 million teachers, about 250 million children in the schooling system, right? Imagine you're engaging with trying to figure out how do you improve the quality of education in such a large, and it's complex, right? So there are so many religions, there are so many languages, there are so many weather factors that affect, there are so many infrastructure challenges, there are so many political influences and what have you. And if you think that this is already getting complex, which is the languages, the dialects, the religions, the caste, the infrastructure, the weather, the harvest seasons, you'll suddenly realize that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because school education is also affected by malnutrition, by gender inequality, by domestic violence, by alcoholism. It's unbelievable what all will impact. And you're trying to engage with all these complexities. You don't get to solve such exciting problems, by the way, in banking for sure, or in most of your corporate jobs that you think about. And by the way, this is not just about education. If you take public health, if you want to talk about the response to COVID, I mean, getting 130 crore people vaccinated, it's unreal what all you need to think through when you're working through all these things. And it doesn't matter where you're working in that spectrum. You could be the health secretary thinking through policy matters. You could be working in a village convincing people why they should take vaccination, and it's not some sort of superstitious thing that is going to sort of affect you and ruin your future generations or anything like that. And this will repeat itself whether you're working in strengthening Panchayat Raj institution, whether you're working on old age, whether you're working on livelihoods, whether you're working on Afghan refugees who are turning up in large numbers into the country, it's as complex, it's as exciting, it's as exciting as it can get for youngsters who really believe that they want to make their minds and careers work to solve the most complex challenges and problems that will make a difference. And therein really lies the excitement, right? So besides the opportunity to make a difference, you do get to work on such complex, meaningful challenges, when you choose careers in the social sector. You also, by the way, get to work with businesses. You get to work with governments. You get to work with international agencies. You get to work with very good minds, futurists, thinkers, philosophers. You get to work with philanthropists. Some of the richest people in the country, you end up working with because they want to know how to solve and they want their money to work for the betterment of the society. And of course, you feel good about yourself at the end of every day that you're doing something meaningful with your life, right? And the kind of organization that you work for is also a range of organizations. You can work for not-for-profit, you can work in for-profit social enterprises, you can work in foundations that are set up by large families or organizations or businesses that are setting up foundations. You could work in a business, you could work in ESG, which is this whole environment, sustainability and governance. You could be working in government organizations. You could be working in quasi-government organizations. You could be working in multilateral agencies. There are bilateral agencies, multilateral agencies. There are think tanks, research agencies that are working on, questions related to society. There's academia, people are researching, teaching in this space. So there's so many areas that you really can work in. And of course, you could be working in a small village on very targeted, specific grassroots issues, or you could be working in a ministry thinking of, some of the global issues and how do you affect the lives of millions of people. How should a Manrega program be doing? Is it working efficiently? How is it really benefiting the people? You could be working, in types of companies. You could be working in check writing, philanthropic organizations. You could be working in consulting companies. You could be working in impact evaluation. You could be working in new areas like social finance and development bonds. You could be working in marketing and behavior change. There's a whole range of work. There's a range of work. There's a range of organizations. There's a different levels at which you can work. It's a really fascinating and largely ununderstood space, if you ask me. Most youngsters I speak to sometimes don't realize all this. And the fact of the matter is, and this is the important thing, right? There is a crying need for good talent in the social sector. And from the space I come in, especially in the whole leading and managing programs, teams, organizations, bringing all the strengths of understanding people management, understanding process management, understanding financial management, understanding technology, understanding logistics, understanding, all these sort of what in business is called management functions. There is a desperate need and there is a huge opportunity for youngsters like yourselves to build careers in these spaces. And I personally think there has never been a better time for joining the social sector. And just take a moment to reflect on what we saw happening over the last 18 months, right? And if you think about, let's say the idea of India, and those of you who remember your civics classes will remember the preamble of the Indian Constitution, which refers to justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, right? We the people of India having solemnly, etc., etc. How did we do on all these counts, right? On justice, on liberty, on equality, on fraternity during this whole pandemic? Sight of the migrant workers first starving in the cities immediately after the lockdown, which was about 18 months ago, and then risking their lives to walk 1,000+ kilometers with their families and children, was enough for every one of us to know that we do not live in a world that truly reflects justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. And a lot of us feel that, no, we don't want to live in an unfair world. We want to live in a world which is fair to people, which treats people with dignity, and so on and so on. And what did we see during the pandemic? We saw that the country had never seen a crisis of this proportion and scale, and certainly not since independence. And there was a report by the Azim Thames University which said that during COVID, and this was around the last quarter of last year, 210 million Indians had slipped into poverty, meaning they went below the poverty line. 210 million people. And mind you, it took us almost more than a decade of really accelerated progress to bring out a similar number out of poverty. So 10 years of work over literally a few months was completely wiped out. And since 1947, I must also say, this is possibly the first time that the country realized that it's really the social sector that's there for the most downtrodden sections of the society in times of a crisis. During the whole pandemic, it was the civil society who was out there, because they were the ones who were putting themselves at great risk to be with these people who were really out there wondering what's happening, because the government system was collapsing at that time. And I'm talking about the first wave and the second wave. The private sector could not reach that. In fact, we saw the dangers of private sector when people were pricing their oxygen cylinders at ridiculous levels to sell to people who would die if they could not, fork out that sort of money. So it was really the civil society that was there, trying to help people understand how do you make masks locally. If you can't have soap, then how do you sort of sanitize your hands? How do you maintain social distance? How do you create some, a record of places people can be isolated, and so on and so forth. The conscience of the country was woken up to this idea that, that a lot of us who are the more privileged are not just witness to the curse of inequality and related socials and the evils in the country, but we end up without realizing becoming silent perpetrators. Right? Because a lot of these people working in our houses, they're the ones who went away and said, I really don't have the confidence to stay back. And we were caught up. And I really think over time that's happened. We were all been so caught up in our lives, we did not realize the kind of inequality and the distance we were creating between us and the less privileged section. We've remained, unfortunately, spectators of this growing inequality over several decades, and did not realize also that. And I'm not blaming anyone. We did not even realize that we were not just watching, but becoming an intrinsic part of this very growing and dangerous inequality. And this, I believe, is a danger of becoming what I call living room critiques. Where we watch the TV screens and criticize things in our living rooms. What we need is a bias for action. That's important. One of the things I said to myself about 10, 15 years ago is that bias for action. If you believe in something, go do something about it. Don't just sit in the armchair and, sort of criticize somebody or the other. Do something about it. That's when you feel you're sort of in integrity to yourself. You're doing something that you really believe in, you talk about, and, you're not just going a hypocrite that's making comments. It's okay to make comments, but have a bias for action, and if you have a bias for action, then this silent perpetration of inequality and things like that will not happen. But I do want to finish, this mood in a more sort of positive note. I also believe that, this country is going to have a really, really bright future over the next 3-4 decades. This is one of the unseen, and if you ask me, unexpected benefits of COVID. I expect this country having years and decades of great progress and shared prosperity. And this is not just the tectonic shifts in geopolitics happening toward Asia and things like that, but also because of some serious resilience and grit this pandemic is going to leave us with. Those of you who remember your history will know nations across the world have made the biggest progresses after the greatest catastrophes. I mean, the classic case is how the European countries came out after the World War, whether it was Russia, Japan, and so many others that were ravaged before the Second World War, have come out of that and, become some of the most rapidly growing, progressing, nations in the world. I also think the sector will never be the same again. And this is specifically for all of you who could be starting your careers in the next year, 2 or 3 years. In many ways, COVID is going to do for the people and careers in the social sector what liberalization, those of you know about it in 1991, and globalization did for people of my generation, myself included. I started my career in 1988, and liberalization happened 3 years later. Many of us who started careers around or after that have had this good fortune to ride a wave, where the ecosystem allowed us to build great businesses, become global leaders, go on to lead some of the largest businesses in different corners of the world. This wouldn't have happened if liberalization hadn't happened, and the world had not been opened, to India and to Indians. So similarly, I believe society have realized the criticality of the social sector, to become a more just, equitable, humane, and sustainable society. And this new mindset and a lot more philanthropic money, the philanthropic money, private philanthropy has been increasing year on year, will nurture a vibrant ecosystem for the social sector. So it's a great time to be in the social sector over the next 3-4 decades, if you like. And there are two myths that I want to touch on, for those of you who might be thinking about careers in the social sector. One is a myth that a majority of people still associate social work with very limited set of activities like blood donation camps, or feeding the poor, or raising some scholarships, or donating clothes, or painting some walls, or reading a books in a blind school. I think the breadth and depth of work in this sector is quite mind-boggling, and I touched on it. I mean, the kind of work, I'll just give you some example, right? We work on strengthening government infrastructure in the social sector. We work on human rights, for example, working against child labor, working on, against child and women trafficking, working on sexual abuse, working on sensitization of, people to juvenile justice, to influencing policy on rights of, the LGBTQ community. So human rights is a very big area of work. Social change is another big area of work, changing belief systems, changing attitude towards patriarchy, honor killings, drug addiction, alcoholism, commercial sex workers. I mean, it's unreal, right? I mean, today, something like 1 million sex workers in this country are underage. So the sector works on, working with all these people and trying to get them a dignified life. Economic security, big area of work for the social sector, right? So skilling the youth on, farm-based or non-farm-based, self-help groups coming together, creating credit systems for, people to earn livelihoods. And we work on environment issues like deforestation, climate change, ozone depletion, soil conservation, green sources of renewable energy, and such an important area of work. All of you followed the COP26 recently know, the severity of climate change. I mean, why those of you who live in India know how climate change is affecting our own lives very close to home. So yeah, these are all the kind of issues we work on, not just on, like I said, blood donation or whatever. And the second myth is that there's a stereotypical view that the social sector limits itself to, being paid very poorly, and somewhere that you have to sacrifice your life to work in the space. I've heard comments like, you're working for a noble cause. Why do you want to be paid? Why should you be paid? No, thankfully, things have changed significantly on this front, and a lot of this professionalizing of the sector is changing that whole mindset. While, of course, if luxury is what you want and you're primarily looking for, and that's fine as well, there's no value judgment. You want to make, I don't know, 5 crore rupees a year or something like that. That's not going to happen in the social sector. I'll be very honest, and then you should look for a different sort of a way. But otherwise, the social sector offers very, very good pay scales, uh, enough to have the most meaningful and enjoyable lives, and bring up families and things like that. And I'll give you some data points, right? So there's something called the Metal Survey that's done, salary survey that's done every year. This was about 3 years ago. And the average engineering graduate in this country was earning about, and by the way, they don't get 100% job. Those who got job were earning about 4.8 lakhs per annum. And some departments earning more, and so on and so forth. Most social sector organizations would pay not very far from that sort of range, if, even as a fresher. And I know at ISDM, our own salaries for students graduating has been in the region of about 7.2 lakhs per annum. So salaries are definitely become much better, because there's a lot more of like I said, professionalizing and realizing that you need to pay to get good talent in the sector. And as you become CEOs, you could be earning even in the region of about 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs per annum and things like that. It is a place where you can have very, very meaningful careers, and it's not like there is no money and this is only for the greater good of humankind. No, it's also to take care of your life. And just want to come to the end by talking about the fourth aspect of the Ikigai framework, which is you need to be good at it, right? So how do you become good at it? You need to invest in yourself, right? And since many of you are still in college, if you're interested in the social sector, I would strongly urge you to invest in yourself and study further, right? Invest in quality education to prepare yourself for careers in the social sector. Don't treat it as a place where you just go in because of bleeding hearts and a passion. No, this is a complicated space. You must study, you must learn. What do you study, right? And there are different options you can study. So one, to become a social worker and work at grassroots in communities and slums, engaging in counseling, village mapping, and stuff like that. You would go and study what's called a master's in social. That's the kind of career choice you want to make, which is grassroots social work. And I would strongly urge you to do a master's in social work. There are many colleges in India that offer a master's in social. There are people who go and study, and this has become a recent field, a master's in development, an MA in development. Now, if the MA in development is something you do if your interest is in understanding why social challenges exist, why do social situations exist, and how development works, understanding the underlying drivers of, they're like the scientists of the social workspace, understanding why things happen and why they should have happened in a different way or things like that. Or you could go into technical fields. You can say, I want to become an education expert or a public health expert or a microfinance expert. And then you would go and study, in an Indian Institute of Public Health or something like that, or go to gender studies if that's what you, or environment. Environment is a very big area, but that's very technical in nature. And the fourth space, which is really sunrise space, and which is where people like Asim and I are in the Indian School of Development Management, is management professionals for the social sector. It's like the MBAs are there for the world of business. The social sector needs the cadre of leaders and managers who will go on to become future CEOs and CXOs. And this is very important. Sometimes people ask me, but how is it different from an MBA? I mean, just to give you an idea of the kind of courses you would study in a place like ISDM, right? So you would first study perspectives on society, understanding power structures, understanding mindsets, understanding norms, understanding the historical, cultural, political nature of social issues that exist. These are not things you would study in an MBA. And you can't be a manager in a development sector without understanding society and the layered nature of the complexities of society. The second is understanding the development ecosystem. How does the government work? How do the markets work? Where do markets fail? Where do social sector need to step in? Who are the key players? What is the history of work on education in this country? What are the models that have worked and failed? So understanding the development ecosystem. And then you would get into designing interventions. Now, if you want to start working, like I said, on education, where do you start? Do you work on textbooks? You work on teachers? You work on student parent engagement? You work with policy? Do you work with examination system? It's a complex space. You need to understand systems thinking. You need to understand how do you map a system? How do you identify a leverage point? How do you design an intervention? These are not things you would learn in an MBA school, but this is required if you want to be a leader manager in the social sector. And then, of course, you have to manage people, money, processes, structures, technology, network, fundraising, volunteers, risks, etc., etc. And besides all that, I believe that to be a manager in the social sector, it's also about you as a human being. You understanding your biases, you understanding the choices you make and why we are where we are, and so on and so forth. So really, those are the kind of choices. And I know I'm running quite tight on time. So I'm going to close by just saying that during COVID, 230 million people have slipped under the poverty line. And by the way, during the same period of COVID, we've been having one new dollar billionaire added in India. So today, India has roughly 150 billionaires. Out of that, 50 billionaires have come up in the last 1 year. Now, That's the horrible world we live in. It's such an unequal world. I'm not aiming either of them. I'm just saying we live in a very unequal world. And I think we need more and more people to work for those 230 million rather than for those 150 people, right? And youngsters like you and I see tremendous hope for this country, because I believe you will make, choices that are driven by what is meaningful, what is relevant. And I can also guarantee you the payback you will get, not only in money terms, but overall, is unmatched when you work in the social sector. How you feel at the end of the day, at the end of a career, something that money can't buy. I'm going to stop there. I hope I gave you a reasonable, sort of an idea of the social sector, the exciting things you can do there. I hope I inspire many of you to come and join the sector, maybe come and study at ISDM. I'll stop there and open the floor up and how you want to do this, Sasi.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ravi, for the presentation. During your presentation, there was a hand raised by Vaishnavi Chaudhary. Vaishnavi, can you please go ahead and ask your question? Vaishnavi? Yes.
Vidhi's hand is.
Yeah, Prerna. Sorry, Vidhi. Yeah, sorry, Vidhi. Please go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. So, like you just talked about, how there is not that big of a payroll in social sector, but there are other benefits except for money in this sector, right? So, I have personally seen and talked to people who choose not to go to the in this sector only because there is not that much that they'll get in monetary terms. Like the payroll is not that good, and their salaries will not be as high as it will be in other sectors. That's why they have opted out of being in the social sector. So how do you think we can let those people know that, okay, yes, as compared to other sectors there might be less salary here, but at the same time you're getting many other perks. So
Yeah.
this is one of my questions.
Yeah, no, really, I think it's a larger thing, and it's a larger change in attitude of society more than anything else. The data points are very clear that the social sector now pays very well. And by very well, I don't mean it'll pay you, like I keep saying, investment banker salaries or, consulting company salaries. But if you're looking at, like I said, a starting salary of 60,000 rupees a month, that's a damn good salary. If you take across professions, you can take engineering schools, you can take management schools, you can take other schools, you will not find salaries much at variance with that. But what happens is over the years, about 5% of people who go into, let's say, MBAs, right, will end up making very large sums of money. But 95% will remain more or less in this ballpark. And if you became a CEO of an NGO, like I said, you could be earning in the region of about, let's say, 5-6 lakh rupees a month. So the sector has money now, and philanthropic contributions are increasing, and people are putting those philanthropic monies are recognizing that you have to pay good salaries to get good talent to be effective with your philanthropy. So I think that is completely changing that, the sector doesn't have money and things like that. I think there is money. And of course, you beautifully said that there is so much more you get, right? Sometimes we take a very narrow view of careers and look at it purely from that money. And I'm saying money also is not bad, but you should also look at what it's going to do to your own well-being. What is it going to do to you as a person? What is it going to do to make you as a various identities that you have as a sister, as a daughter, as a mother, as a woman, as a whatever? It's huge what it does, and I almost feel scared. It's like an epidemic where I see youngsters choosing these jobs, and putting so much pressure on themselves and ending up as, either as failures or being treated badly or in very caustic environments and wondering, what am I even doing over here? It's very costly. But I think, short answer, there is money in the sector. I don't think there is a shortage on that front.
Sure.
Yes, thank you, sir. I just have one more question.
Yes, Vidhi, please go ahead.
Yeah, so in the social sector, like there are many things that you can work on. You can work as a curriculum setter or like many other things. But
Yes.
I want to know, like, which is that particular field or post, which is the closest with the community, where you can serve the community in the best way possible, or with the you can form more closer bond, maybe tight knit bond with the community.
Right. So Vidhi, that is a very personal question, and very, very different people like very, very different things. What you like may be very different from what I like, maybe very different from what Aseem likes. So what you should choose is, what do you get excited about? And I ask that question, if you sit back one day and ask yourself, what is it that really bothers you in society? Right. And in our country, we see it all around us, whether it is the person working in your house, whether it is the security bhaiya, whether it's the driver, whether it is the, anyone on the, you see it all over you. You must feel passionate about it. The day you feel passionate about it, you will build immense bonds. So for example, if like my passion is school children, and thereby I love working with school, but that's where I get my high. That smile on the child's face is the ultimate high for me. For you, the smile on the child's face may not be as exciting as the smile on an old person's face. Because I know, for example, a girl who was talking to me yesterday on how she loves her grandparents so much that she believes, all old people deserve a lot more love and happiness. And for her, she gets a lot of love out of that work that she does. In fact, one of our alums, working with, the old age community. So I don't think there is a particular space. It could be women, it could be children, it could be people who've been abused, working with, rape victims, acid survivors, railway platform children where people have been trafficked. It boils down to what touches your heart. No easy answer, sorry, Vidhi.
So I think your answer gave me quite a bit of a clarity. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Vidhi. Ravi, the next question is from Kashish. Kashish's question is, what are the further career opportunities in the field of philosophy other than going for a lectureship, since there is a general perception that philosophy has very limited career opportunities?
No, I think these are the kind of myths that have resulted in our society becoming a very, poor society. Because if we don't ask those philosophical questions on what ought to be, what is a good life, what is a flourishing civilization, you'll never have a flourishing civilization. And we did talk very nicely about engineers in the beginning, but somewhere in my generation, if you had good marks, you became an engineer, a doctor, or a chartered accountant. Everything else was useless, right? And what happened? The brightest youngsters went off into engineering. They never studied philosophy, they never studied culture, they never studied sociology, nothing. So today, if you look around and see the airports of this country, which these engineers have built, they're outstanding, right? They're really modern and all that. But can you take a board off of any of those airports and guess where that airport is? You will not be able to guess. Because we don't care for the cultural aspects of it. We don't care for the emotional aspects of, landing in a place. Whereas if you look at the railway stations, right, you land up in, at Churchgate or VT or Lucknow or Bhopal or, any of these places. It's amazing what culture and, value systems do. Philosophy is at the leading edge of that question. What a good life ought to be? What is a flourishing civilization? So I think it's important to think through in terms of making that choice, because it's such an important thing. What can you do? You can do a lot of things. Of course, you can teach. Of course, you can do research. You can be involved in social work. You can be advising, how to make choices when you work on gender, when you work on disability, when you work on so many aspects. And philosophy, again, you can break it down. One of my closest friends is talks about philosophy and physics. I work a lot in school education space. Philosophy of education is a very, very big space, and there are practitioners there. There are, people who started businesses based on philosophical ideas of how education ought to be. There's a lot of choices. I think we're limited by our imagination.
Thank you, Ravi. The next question is from an anonymous attendee. Sir, I like marketing. Can I also work in NGOs?
Oh, I think marketing can play the most powerful role in the social sector. And I remember this, quote I always talk about, where Krishna Kumar, who used to be the director of NCRT, once said, for 30 years of my life, he said, I've been trying to get the country to wake up to the idea of special needs education. And he says, I failed miserably. He said, Amir Khan, in 3 hours, woke this country's conscience to special needs education with Tare Zameen Par. It's amazing what and that for me is marketing. It's understanding the consumer. It's understanding how choices are made. It's understanding how motivations are affected, and then using stimuli that will alert people to that. In fact, the biggest challenge in the social sector is mindsets and beliefs. How to change attitude towards certain communities, certain races, certain principles, certain superstitions, certain cultural ideas. Marketing is very, very, very powerful in the social sector.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. I think in the interest of time, last two questions.
I'll have to go.
This one is from Pallavi. Pallavi, how can I be a member of an NGO without college?
Without college?
Along with college, sorry.
Okay. No, I think you should volunteer. That's how you start off, because you want to find your calling. And a lot of colleges have, things like NSS and enactors and various clubs and things like that. But the starting point is start at home. Teach somebody something, help somebody, be involved in their lives, get to know more about what does it mean to be, somebody who's living in the slum, who's working in, or living in the area where, the lady who works at your house might be coming from, or your driver is coming from, whatever. So the starting point is make it part of your life, develop a bias for action, do something, it can be volunteering, it can be simple things that you do to help and make a difference. Over time, your mind will keep shaping itself.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. The next question is the work in fields like environment and sustainable development satisfactory for students of humanities, given that we lack the nuance and technicality of natural sciences required to solve issues in these fields?
Yeah,
Also,
no, people assume that, sorry, I'm interjecting maybe because I'm a bit rushed. People assume these are purely technical questions. No, a lot of the environment challenges have huge intersectionality with race, with gender, with poverty, with so many other aspects. And the technical guys will never understand that. The humanities students will. So we need that technical person to work alongside these humanities people to understand how do we address these issues. If you try to address these issues purely in a technical way, you will never solve them. So very, very important to be part of those discussions and narratives.
Yeah, Ravi, last question from Shreya. What will be the good career opportunities in sociology except working in NGOs and teaching?
I think she should come and study at ISDM and become a development management professional. There's so many things you can do.
Sure. Thank you, Ravi. Thanks for taking the questions from the audience. I think with that, we have come to the end of this particular interaction with the students. Over to you, Nirmala ma'am.
Yeah. May I request all the participants to unmute their cameras for a group photograph? Everyone, please. All the participants, kindly unmute your cameras for a group photograph.
Okay, for that, I'll have to allow them to do so. So give me like 2 minutes to allow everyone.
Frodi, can you please help them unmute?
Yes. Give me,
so that
2
all
minutes.
of them can,
Yeah, if we can have everyone in a single frame, as many as possible, that would be nice.
Or we could have multiple frames also.
Yeah. We need to have multiple frames
Yeah.
with so many students.
Frodi, please facilitate this for us so that everybody is in the frame. Is everybody able to unmute now? Okay. Yeah,
I'm trying
I'll
seeing
just
if you
open
can,
the list of the participants.
if you can open your cameras.
yeah, please, everyone. Okay, they'll have to promote them to panelists, it seems. Okay.
Okay, so let's take it like that.
Okay.
The webinar format, ma'am. So.
Okay, fine.
Okay, I think this will also do then.
Okay, and I'll now request Vidhi Jain, our student coordinator, to propose a formal vote of thanks to Mr. Sreedharan. Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope it was worth the time of the students.
Absolutely.
It surely was.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
so good afternoon, everyone. Oh, sorry, sir. Yes.
No, go ahead, please.
So to begin with, sir, I would like to thank Mr. Ravi Chandran, sir, founder and
Ravi
president of
Sreedharan, sir.
Indian School.
Mr. Ravi Sreedharan, sir.
It's okay.
Yeah,
I felt like
okay,
Ravi
I'll just start
Chandrashna.
again. Sorry, I'm just a bit nervous, to be honest.
No worry.
Yeah. So to begin with, I would like to thank the speaker, Mr. Ravi Sreedharan, sir, founder and president of Indian School of Development Management, for such an enriching session. Sir, as final year students, we're always worrying and thinking about what we can do after graduation. So thank you for putting our worries to rest and attending to all our questions. I would also like to extend my gratitude to both the directors, Dr. Poonam Bhutra and Mrs. Nirmala Muralidhar of JDMC-IQAC Center for Career Counseling, Career Opportunity and Skill Enhancement, and IQAC Center for Extension and Outreach Activities for organizing this event. Thank you, Mr. Aseem Purohit, sir, Director, Programs and Operations for Indian School of Development Management, and the other team members of ISDM for coordinating the program with us so effectively. Thank you, Principal Ma'am, for providing us with this opportunity to host the session. Thank you for always supporting and guiding us in all our endeavors. Last but not the least, I wish to thank all the participants who have attended this event and turned it into a huge success. We hope that you had your queries solved for future. Thank you for your patience and interaction throughout.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Poonam. Thank you, Nirmala ma'am. And
Thank
thank you to
you.
all the attendees.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Look
Mr.
forward to
Sreedharan.
seeing some of you at ISDM. Bye and have
And
great
we
careers.
look forward to working with you in the future too.
Yes, yes, indeed.
And
Yes, indeed.
I hope we can collaborate on
No, we'd love to.
more
Really love the
ventures.
participation of your students. Really appreciate it.
Yes, and thanks to all the participants who took time off to be with us. And I'm sure they found the session enriching and extremely informative. And we look forward to collaborating with you in the future. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
I would